Okay, let's get started. So today we're converting open houses. One of the big things that we go over in this industry is doing open houses, the importance of them. But I really want to go over not just the before steps, but what we do during the open house. And we're going to get into the details of a setup, preparing for the open house, a setup, what you're going to discuss with your open house guests, and really just kind of give you a different outlook on how to convert those open house guests into actual clients. So let's get started. So first, there's lots of different ways to make money in real estate. There's lots of different prospecting activities you could do. But at the end of the day, if you're not going to make calls, if you're not going to prospect, there's certain things that you could probably look in the mirror and just know you don't want to do. It's not in your blood. And when there's friction behind activities, when there's things you don't want to do, it's going to be a lot harder to do those things. So if you're not going to make your calls, if you're not going to prospect, then you should be going all in on open houses. Typically, most real estate agents, they like doing open houses because people willingly walk into a house. Most of them are home buyers, and they willingly want to talk to you. So it's a non-threatening way of doing activities. So how can we leverage open houses and make them more effective and turn them into clients, which is going to lead to of course, more money in your pocket. So do them right and do them often. One of the big things in our industry is weekends are for open houses, but that's not necessarily a rule, right? We could do open houses as long as we want, as often as we want. So you can host 2 or 3 open houses a week. They could be weekdays, weekends, daytime, evenings. You could be really creative with this. And I would tell you that an open house that has 30 guests on a Saturday and an open house on a twilight Thursday evening that has 3 guests, depending on how good and effective you are, that open house on a Thursday with 3 guests could be more successful for you if you're able to actually convert those people into clients, where a really busy open house over the weekend where you're basically just herding cats could potentially be less successful than less guests. So just keep that in mind that you're dedicating time, whether it's 2, 3, 4 hours between all the prep, setting up signs, and actually doing the open house. If you get one closing from that open house, that is really good use of your time. So let's change our thinking. And again, not really focus too much on how many guests come to your open house, but are you able to convert them? Are you able to set the tone to get an appointment or set expectations for reconnection throughout the week? One of the things that you can do, a non-threatening way of door knocking or visiting neighbors, is inviting them to the open house. So just a rule of thumb, bite-sized piece, you should knock a minimum of 30 homes leading up to the open house. And I would recommend that you have some sort of neighborhood packet, okay? I want you to have more than just a business card or a door hanger inviting them to the open house. So we're going to discuss what that neighborhood packet's going to have. And if we're doing 2 to 3 open houses a week, that's 60 to 90 visits per week that you're going to be hopefully having good conversations with. And again, inviting a neighbor to an open house is a very non-threatening way to prospect. So one of the things that people don't like to do is cold calls or cold knocking, because frankly, a lot of it doesn't work. But when you have a reason to knock on a door, when you have a reason to talk to a neighbor that you're having an open house up the block, it makes it much easier to do. And those neighbors are typically more receptive to what you're saying, and dialogue and conversation could happen more organically than just knocking on doors randomly, letting them know that you're a realtor. So what is going to be in this neighborhood packet? First, people like details. So I would always recommend to have the MLS sheet in there, property flyer. Definitely have your contact information. I like QR codes. So, ever since COVID, QR codes are a big thing. And, a lot of people are using them, but how can we effectively use them? How can we put a nice flyer together? We're going to talk about that in a minute. So you have your property flyer, you have your contact info, we have your QR codes. We're going to talk about exactly what that is in a minute. And you're also going to maybe want to include some buyer guides and seller guides. There's lots of information online. Here at Weicker, we have those things, but you could find those relatively easy. You could Google them, look up a buyer guide, seller guide, and you can utilize Canva to format a lot of that stuff for you. I always like, depending on where your open house is, look at like size houses, like price houses, and maybe have those in your neighborhood packet as well. Local market snapshot. What's the market absorption rate? What's some, things that are people interested in is maybe the highest priced house in the neighborhood or the lowest priced house in the neighborhood. That's usually something that's provoking and will draw attention for them. Of course, you're going to have your business card, and there's others. You could be creative. The whole goal of effectively doing open houses is to be different. So, what could be in that neighborhood packet that's different? Where the homeowner is, the homeowner that the neighbor is looking through that packet, and they look through it and say, "This is different," because then it's going to put you in a position of being different. Too many times a realtor is looked at as a commodity, and we're not, right? One realtor is not the same as another. So let's show them how we are different and how we are, providing a better service than other agents. All right, so door knocking. When you do door knock, one of the things you're going to do is deliver that neighborhood packet in person. Use a really simple script. We don't have to reinvent the wheel here. Hi, I'm Jared. I'm hosting an open house or an open invite to 133 Main Street on Thursday evening at 6 p.m. Here's some info. I'd love to see you there. This is going to position you as a neighborhood expert, right? You're doing business in their area. One of the things I like about the weekday open houses is make it sound like it's a special invitation to the homeowners. So you're going to maybe call it something a little different, maybe not an open house, but a special open invite for neighbors. And that's going to be a pattern interrupt, calling it something a little different. We're going to get into what a pattern interrupt is in a moment. But it's a way of maybe getting more neighbors to come to that open house because it's a special invite for neighbors. And nosy neighbors are good. I promise you that. So there's lots of before steps. There's lots of prep that goes into the open houses. The purpose of this Zoom training is more of what you're going to do during the open house to convert that. So here at Weicker, we have an open house playbook, has detailed stuff, but again, there's so much information online. If you Google it, check out some of the videos. There's a lot of activities and there's a lot of ways to leverage open houses to do activities leading up to the open house. There's lots of ways to prepare for that open house. So definitely do your research and do it. And maybe we'll have a training in the future on that. But let's focus on the dooring steps. All right, so I want you all to think about what a home buyer experience should be like. So would you want to be forced, if you were a home buyer walking into an open house, would you want to be forced to sign in within seconds? So you walk into the house, boom, they put a clipboard in front of you, or they say you need to go to this corner of the house and you need to sign in. Would you want the agent to escort you, kind of staying with you at all times throughout the open house? Keep in mind, these are strangers. They don't know you, and they don't know if they like you yet. So would you want an agent to follow you around and just kind of feature dump and talk and talk and talk? And would you want to be sold? And the answer probably to all those questions is no. So let's look at it in reverse. Let's think that we're the home buyers. We're walking into an open house. How would you want your experience to be? And the answer to those questions is going to maybe change your outlook on how you're going to be hosting your open houses. So the goal for your open house should be to be noticeably different and provide better customer experience to your guests. So the big question is, how do we do that? So let's get into it. So let's talk pattern interrupts. I mentioned that earlier. Let's just read the definition of a pattern interrupt. A pattern interrupt in sales is a technique where you deliberately break the prospect's expected flow of conversion or interaction to grab their attention, reset their thinking, and then open them up to a new perspective. So most home buyers have visited multiple open houses in the past, and all of them are run relatively the same. So if we're able to change it up, we're going to create a little bit of a pattern interrupt, and it could be kind of an icebreaker to engage with that person, be a human being, and have a good conversation with them. So as we said, most open houses are done pretty much the same. So creating a pattern interrupt will set the tone that we do things differently. So let's figure out why these pattern interrupts work. So the human brain runs on autopilot much of the time, especially in routine situations like sales pitches or a typical open house. Prospects often expect this standard approach, so they mentally prepare to respond with quick rejections. Not interested, send me an email. I'm just looking. They just want to see the house. So when you create a pattern interrupt, it jolts them out of autopilot mode, forcing them to pause, pay attention, re-engage with you more concisely. So think about somebody walking into a furniture store on a Sunday afternoon, and more times than not, that salesperson's going to meet them pretty much at the door. And what does probably every single person say when they go into that furniture store on a Sunday afternoon? I'm just looking. I can promise you nobody's walking into a furniture store on a Sunday afternoon because they're just looking. They are interested in buying maybe a couch or a bed or something, but they don't need that salesperson right away. They want the time to explore, they want the time to look, and then eventually they will need that salesperson. But it's way too early when they walk in the door to jump and try to help them because you don't even know what they're looking for or how you can help them. So how do we use pattern interrupts? Just kind of some base rules. You still have to be authentic. So it still should match your personality and prospect's tone. We don't want to, be uncharacteristic with ourselves because it could come across very salesy. You want to be relevant. The interrupt should connect with your sales conversation, not just shock for the sake of it. You also want to transition smoothly. So once you have their attention, pivot quickly into your value proposition. How can you provide value to those open house guests? Right now you're just the gatekeeper. You're the reason uh, they need to see. They have the ability to see that house, so they're going to go through the motions. They're going to be on autopilot just so they can see the house because they know that you're that quote unquote gatekeeper. And you want to use it sparingly. So overuse can definitely feel gimmicky and salesy. So you got to be smart with that as well. Now, if we are able to accomplish providing a much different open house, if a home buyer walks into two or three open houses on a Sunday afternoon and then they walk into yours, at the very beginning, if your open house experience is different, it's a pattern interrupt in itself. So how can we make our open house different? One is a signage, right? Definitely, you want to have more open house signs, flags, etc., than your competition. So if there's other open houses out there, are we putting out at least 8 directional signs? Do we have balloons or balloon alternatives on them? We should, and it's noticeable. If you look through an open house, some people just throw in maybe on the corner and the house itself, or just the house itself. So let's be different. I would recommend 8 directional signs at a minimum. Your display. So having an amazing display, you need to think of it as your storefront. So people spend a lot of time, a lot of energy, and a lot of money on their retail storefront, right? They spend, thousands and thousands of dollars on window displays, on signs when they walk into that store, whatever it might be. Everything is by design. So are we setting up our open house the same way? When somebody walks in the door, do we have a really nice display? And we'll have some pictures of that in a moment. One of the things I love is description label cards. So these are basically things on a PowerPoint. You can kind of format it however you want. You're going to cut them up. They're probably index size property cards, and they're going to have various information about the house. So use them, set them up throughout the house. It answers questions before they ask. So if it's a 200 amp electric panel, put it right where that panel is in the basement of the garage. Upgraded 200 amp electric panel. If there's central air, mention that. The heating system, maybe the fact that there's natural gas in the house. You're going to want to put all these features throughout the house. You're going to basically use masking tape, and you're going to put them throughout the house, and it's going to show that you're much different than other ones. Every time we do this, the amount of compliments we get from other agents, from buyers, and the homeowner, it's really impressive, and it's so simple to do. Your handouts. How good are your property flyers? Are you providing more information than just the information on the house? Maybe community events in the area for the upcoming month. Maybe other homes that are on the market. Maybe homes that have sold. Data on what's going on in the market. So you're going to want to have a nice packet to give your guests that provide value and something that's different. So signage, we kind of went over this already, but you're going to want at least 8 directional signs throughout the house. You're going to want to have 2 balloons on each or some sort of balloon alternative. There's lots of different things. If you Google them, consider using open house flags. Not a lot of agents are using open house flags. You could get them, they don't have to be branded to your company. You could get them on Amazon relatively cheap. You can pick different colors based on the color of your company, and it could be a big difference between differentiating yourself and being different. You may want to consider a table outside of the house. So especially if it's going to be a really busy open house, but even if not, if there's a nice table with a tablecloth, maybe a yellow tablecloth with white, but whatever company that you are, with, use that color tablecloth and set it up the way you want. Make it look really nice and, do different things. On that table, you might consider doing a raffle for a bottle of wine or a gift basket where they have to put their information in, and it's a good tool to maybe get good information on their sign-in. Maybe a tent out front. We want to make things look grand. We want to make things look different. One of the things, if you Google a mega open house, in some cases, people set up, bands or an acoustic guitar, maybe playing music outside, maybe setting up. Somebody mentioned at a sales meeting a few weeks ago, which I really liked a lot, is either bringing their kids or one of the neighbors, letting them know when you're door knocking, hey, if you have anybody that might want to set up a lemonade stand outside of the open house, I welcome it and I'm happy for you to do that. I think that could be a really good icebreaker, differentiate yourself, and definitely a great pattern interrupt as they're walking up to the house for a lemonade stand. Or a lot of kids now are doing these bracelets. They're making their bracelets. So think outside the box, be creative, and the goal is, again, to make your open house feel different. And all these things I mentioned, it doesn't take a tremendous amount of prep work. And the more you're doing these open houses, you're going to set up an open house kit, and it's going to be easier every single time you do them. You set up a little area, you get a box or a tote box or whatever it might be, and set yourself up so you don't have to do too much planning. It's more work setting up your open house kit, and then each open house you're doing, you may add to, you may do different things based on different properties, whether they're a higher price point or a unique property. But definitely be creative, and you want to have that really good first impression when they're walking into that open house. So talking about display, you could go on Amazon and check out an 11 by 17-inch menu stand. They're about 30, $40. You look on the bottom there, you see that. Maybe you set that up inside the house, just in front of the door, maybe outside the house, and you could print out a nice 11 by 17 flyer, or you could put two regular papers next to each other and it fits that menu display perfectly. You can use flyers in my whiteboard. You could use Canva. The sky's the limit as far as what you want to do and put in the menu box or anywhere else. Business card stands, water, have labels for your water bottles. I love the idea of, having open house guests walk in. We're going to talk about dialogue in a second. And right before they're ready to walk around and check out their tour, hand them two waters, and it could be a great impression. Display boards. So what kind of flyers are you displaying? Are you announcing that you're taking new clients? Are you announcing that if they own a home, you could provide them with a property valuation and marketing plan, and the fact that you're setting up appointments for the week to do that? So these are all things that you could do to let them know, hey, I'm not just the gatekeeper for you to see this house. I'm a neighborhood professional that can provide a really good service for you. And here's all these services I can provide. Let's remember there's endless ideas. Again, this is something that you might grow over time. Your first open house and your fourth might be completely different, and you're going to try to improve them. And you're always going to have that mindset of, if I'm a home buyer walking into this open house, what's my first impression? What's my experience like? So these are those description labels. So again, it's a PowerPoint template. You can make your own. I could send it to you if you wanted to request it. You could email me. Just use painter's tape. We don't want to damage the homeowner's walls. Tape it to the walls in all the appropriate locations. If it's a wood burning fireplace or a gas burning fireplace, definitely have a display showcasing which one. It allows you to communicate with other guests even when you're not with them. So there's a chance, if there's multiple guests in the house at the same time, or if you're strategically letting them experience it for themselves, you're still there. You're answering questions as they're walking through the property. And a lot of times they're answering questions before they even have the ability to ask. And that's going to leave a really good impression for them. It shows that you go above and beyond. They're little cards. It doesn't, take a whole lot of effort to do this, but it feels like you're providing a big service and something that no one else is doing. And think about using QR codes. So if you did set up videos prior, maybe a listing video, you're going to want to put those QR codes to whatever platform that might be, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and that way they can scan that QR code and see that video. Maybe you have floor plans, tax information, home valuations, have a QR code. Do you own a home? Here's your instant valuation with this tool, and then they can scan that QR code. Even if they don't scan that QR code for that property valuation, it's a soft close. It's letting them know what you do and that you can help them with their sale. And then later during that tour, if you do have a conversation with them, they already are a little more mentally prepared that you provide these kind of services. So the neighborhood packet, again, MLS printout, property flyer. I love a Dear Neighbor letter with a QR code. So it's made in Canva. You look on the right-hand side there. This is something that you would provide to your neighbor during the door knocking, but you could have a very similar thing in your open house packet for guests. But simply it says, I want to let you know I'm hosting an open house at 123 Main Street, Thursday night from 6 to 7 as a special neighbor open invite. Come down and see how your home compares. I have some QR codes to some videos and info you should find of value. Hope to see you there. So there's a buying and selling guide there. There's a website of listing photos. Get the instant valuation of your home. If you have videos, put those there too. So this is a good flyer that could yield some pretty good results, and it's different. The open house packet. So when you are doing this open house packet and you are giving that to the open house guests, definitely have an MLS printout. A lot of people like that. It's got the details of the house. Have a property flyer. Have it on good cardstock, maybe ordering it from an approved vendor. I always keep my extra flyers. I get them printed at a third-party company. They're really professional, and I'll keep them. And depending on what area they're in, if I have a listing appointment, I'll bring them as a sample marketing material. That way they can feel it, see it. And again, it's another soft close where they're seeing me as the listing agent. I always recommend to get floor plans. So if you are taking the listing, it's your listing and you're hiring a photographer, get floor plans and have it printed out for them. A lot of buyers find a lot of value in that. The flyer with the QR codes is definitely something you want to do. A seller and buyer guide, basically anything you want. What information do you want them to have? And you can have a nice stapled booklet of maybe 5 or 6 pages that you provide, and not just an MLS listing, printout, which a lot of agents do. Whether it's Canva or the My Marketing Studio, there's a couple of good forms there. So top questions. These are questions that a buyer should ask their agent. They're really good questions and they're thought-provoking questions. Tips for your home search, an open house consultation. So there's lots of different things you could do there. I think you should get some provoking flyers in there too. So provide a custom flyer about the top 5 things buyers and buyers agents can do to get their offer accepted. And, think about what that might be, whether it's what terms a buyer can offer to make it more, more incentive for a seller to consider, whether it's details of providing lots of details of the financing to let that seller know that basically this loan is going to be the easiest loan in the entire world. Little things like this could be a differentiator for a buyer if there's lots of offers at a similar price point. All right, so you want to ask yourself, what's your intro dialogue? So we established our outside display, setting up signs. We established our kind of storefront when they walk through the house. Now you're going to want to figure out what your intro dialogue will be. So when an open house guest walk through that door, you want to set expectations for that tour. It could be, this example of a dialogue script. You might choose something that's completely different, but the goal is it's by design. Okay, it should be by design, and you should practice it over and over again. Here's an example. Hi, welcome to my open house. My goal is for this open house to be unlike any open house you've been to, and for you to have a great customer experience. Please take this open house packet that not only has info of the home, but also valuable information that may help you with your home buying journey. I like to let you experience the home on your own, but I'll be available to answer any questions you may have. You will also see labels throughout the home that may answer a lot of your questions. Feel free to walk around, and before you leave, I like to have a brief chat to go over some required disclosures. Sound good? So one of the things I like to do is actually have my open house guests sign out. So I set the expectations, and then I do provide them with a clipboard, and my sign-in sheet has a rating. So it's asking them to provide some sort of rating. So it's got a kitchen rating from 1 to 5, a pricing rating from 1 to 5. It's got different things, and I actually give them a little homework and ask them to fill it out throughout the tour. And it's well received. A lot of people do like to do that. Some don't. So your opening dialogue should be by design and practiced. We already discussed that. You need to be really good at it, and it should be setting the expectations of the tour. What kind of experience do you want your open house guests to have? And you want to announce to them that experience that you envision for them. And again, if you have those two orders, I think that's the perfect time to do that. So we don't just want to let them loose, let them see the house and not speak to them again, right? We want to extend the conversation, but when are we going to do that? Remember, we talked about the furniture salesman, how they don't, that customer doesn't need them right now, but eventually, when they find that right couch, they're not getting it delivered without talking to that salesperson. So we want to figure out when we're going to reintroduce ourselves, when we're going to create a conversation and get more dialogue going. And hopefully, by the time you're ready to come back in and have a conversation with that open house guest, you already created pattern interrupts by providing a much different experience, a much different display. Everything about this open house when they walked into it is different. So hopefully by then you impressed them a little bit, you built a little rapport, and then you're going to find the time to spark up another conversation. So a great tool, if they might have a question for you. So if they engaging you and ask you a question, you can answer it and then ask them questions. Also, most houses that we're hosting open houses for are not 6,000 square foot homes. So they're probably going to have to walk back through an area that you're in order to get to a different area of the house. That might be a good way of asking questions and getting a dialogue started. It's important to ask the right questions, right? We want to ask questions that are going to get us information and questions that are going to allow us to extend the conversation. So some real kind of entry level icebreakers. How long have you been shopping for a home? Are you looking for a specific home, or is area more important to you? Why are they there? Is it because it's a split house and they love splits? Or is it because it's in a very unique area that a family member lives in and they want that particular area? That's going to be really good information that you're going to find useful in servicing them and helping them. If everything goes the way you want it to, what's your ideal timeline in closing for a home? Do you currently own or rent? There's too many realtors out there that do open houses and they don't ask this question. And it's probably one of the most important questions you could ask. I don't think it should be your first question, but if you don't ask this question, I think you're doing yourself a big disservice in the ability to get potentially more listings. Would you need to sell in order to buy? So if they do own a house, that's a question. Would you need to sell in order to buy, or do you have the ability to buy and reimburse yourself after you sell? Something like that. Are you familiar with the neighborhood? You're gonna learn whether or not they're familiar with the neighborhood, if they're specifically looking in this neighborhood, and then you can ask other questions like what other neighborhoods are they looking for? Do you have any must-haves or deal breakers during your home buying process? As they're looking through it a little longer, what's your thoughts of this house? What's your favorite part of this house? These questions are going to, teach you a lot as well. How has your real estate experience been so far? So that's kind of a pattern interrupt in itself. And chances are, if they've been looking for a while, they're going to say it's a frustrating experience. So now you can maybe step in and give them tips on how maybe you can take away some of that stress. Is there anything you'd like to see addressed or changed in this property? Maybe they like this property, but there's one issue. If we can isolate that issue and address it, maybe we could actually sell this house. And tell me more about your home buying strategy. They'll probably look at you and say, well, we don't really have one, or I don't know what you're talking about. Well, come over here. I'd love to give you some tips and strategize on how to get your deal accepted when you do find that right home. So, other questions? Are you looking at other homes today? Do you have any feedback or suggestions for improving my open house experience? A lot of times, if you do it the right way, they're going to say, no, this has been unlike any open house I've been to, and I appreciate it. So, that's all good things you could do as well. On a scale from 1 to 10, how interested are you in this property? That's going to tell you whether or not, you're going to ask them, would you like to make an offer? And no, frankly, aside from a one, you might want to ask if they want to make an offer, but it's a different way of asking. Again, would you like to make an offer? Would you like to keep, would you like me to keep you updated on similar listings? Chances are they're going to say yes, and it's going to give you an open door to set the expectations for a reconnection maybe later in the week. And there's lots of other questions, you could Google, there's a million questions to ask. At the end of the day, when you do get those ice-breaking questions, you're going to be a human being and it's going to have a conversation and you're just going to see where it goes. But having these questions in your head and being able to pull them out as they're applicable is going to be, something that's important, and you're going to have to practice those questions over and over again. I love doing an open house where the open house guests are a little guarded. You could tell they're not really giving you a whole lot of information and they're guarded, and there's no better feeling to me than when halfway through that tour, you could see that guard just go away. And now you're just having a regular conversation with a regular person, almost like you were at the bar or an amusement park and you're online together. Uh, and all of a sudden, you're going to notice those things and you build rapport, you're likable. And that's going to be the time where you can hopefully engage in more dialogue and close for an appointment. So you'll know when you're in that situation, almost like a little kid going fishing, and they ask, how do you know if there's a fish on the hook? And the answer is you'll know. Don't worry. When that guard goes away with that open house guest, and all of a sudden you could tell you're having a real conversation, you'll know. So asking the right questions will allow you to learn more about them and help guide you on what you should do to focus on in hopes of closing for the appointment. So again, depending on where this conversation is going, depending on what their needs are, you're going to hone in on that and you're going to focus on that, and hopefully you're going to close for an appointment. I always say there's two types of buyers. There's a transactional buyer and there's an informational gathering buyer. A transactional buyer, they got their pre-approval. They probably made offers on some houses before. They know exactly what they want. They just need the inventory. So your approach with that person is going to be a lot different. Maybe you're going to talk to them about if anyone has ever discussed with them off-market properties. They're going to ask, no, what's that? And then the information gathering buyer, they need a little more hold handing. They want the buyer guide. They want the process. And maybe you could close for an appointment to meet in the office and go over, how to do that. So, hey, Mr. Buyer, I promise you, come into the office. Let's go over the home buying process. It'll take about 25 minutes, and I promise you, it's going to put you in such better position to be able to get a deal accepted once we do find that right house. When would be a good time for that 25-minute, meeting? Would tomorrow around, 3 p.m. work, or, Tuesday at 5? And all of a sudden, if you do this over and over and over again, you will absolutely close appointments. So based on what they say, you'll respond and know what to say next. And your responses at this point should provide value, right? So here's an example. So let's say the guest shared with you that they own a home and they need to sell to buy. Your dialogue might be something in the effect of this. It was great meeting you. One of the ways I can help you is to take a quick 15-minute tour of your home. It will give me everything I need to prepare a price trend analysis and detailed marketing plan that addresses your timeline of the buy and sell. I do have some time after the open house, unless weekday evenings are better. Ask for the appointment. The worst they're going to say is no, and then hopefully, if it is a no, you're going to set the tone for a reconnection later in the week. Okay, I understand that maybe you're a little early in the home buying process, or you're not interested in getting this service right now. What I like to do is, this house was a $700,000 split in Farmingdale. I like to go around my office and see if there's anything coming up. Can I give you a call maybe on Tuesday to go over that, and also just to get some feedback on your experience with this house? Set the tone for a reconnection if you can't close for the appointment. Let's say a buyer says that they have a lot of time. Their living situation is pretty good and they do have a lot of time. Your response might be, that is a great position to be in. It gives you flexibility. Have you done your affordability assessment and pre-approval yet? So that way you're ready to jump on the right home once it hits the market. If they say no, you could offer your gold service lender, your gold service provider, for financing. Uh, Even if they do say yes or no, you're going to close for the appointment. Do you have time Monday around lunchtime or Tuesday evening for a quick call? I'd love to learn exactly what you're looking for. Me or my office may already know of homes that aren't on the market yet. And hopefully that would set the tone either for an appointment or a quick call. And then if you did make that flyer, top 5 things a buyer can do to get their deal accepted, or whatever kind of provoking flyer you want to create, uh, you could reference that it's in their packet and strongly encourage they read it. And then it gives you a reason to follow up. Hey, Mr. Buyer, I wanted to ask you, did you have time to review that top 5 things a buyer can do to get their deal accepted? They say yes. I might respond, which do you think would be the most valuable when you are making an offer? And then you're testing them to see if they actually did read it. So let's recap a little bit. Let's just talk about open houses in general. So one of the things I love about open houses is they're structured, right? There's clear kind of things. Once you have your system in place, there's before, during, and after process. It's sort of on autopilot. It's also easily trackable. You could track how many guests came. You could track how many door knockers you did. You could track pretty much everything that you're doing in that open house. So activities and results are measurable. It's repeatable. So once you have your system in place, there's going to be a little anxiety of doing the next one because you already have your systems, you already have your displays. Obviously, there's some customized stuff you need to do for the specific house, but you already have most of your stuff and your ducks in a row. It's easily learned. So, once you have your system, you're going to learn what to do. And for the most part, there's tweaks you could do, there's ways to improve, but you're going to be able to learn it. And there's lots of material on that stuff as well. Meets buyers' expectations. So offers the flexibility of today's buyers want. They don't necessarily want to make appointments. They want to just come to an open house. So open houses is a great way to get buyers in the door. Start early. So one of the things I always say is you need to schedule your open house at least a week in advance. It gives you the ability to prepare and also gives you the ability to leverage that open house by doing activities beforehand. You want to have your storefront approach, right? When you are doing that open house is your storefront. So to have your displays and set it up the way that you want. Every contact matters. Nosy neighbors are good neighbors. Treat every interaction as a future opportunity, and also everyone should get customized follow-up. So, you could gather good information, you could input it into your CRM, and you're going to learn things by having the conversation, be a human being. It shouldn't be just a simple template. Hey, thanks for coming to the open house. Did you want to make an offer? Can you provide me some feedback? Something I can help you buy a house. You're going to learn things from that person, whether they had soccer afterwards, whether they're going to the beach, whether they have a vacation plan. Chances are, if you are engaging and asking the right questions, being a human being, and just having a conversation, you're going to learn something about them, and it's going to give you a reason to have a customized follow up, which could be a big difference in a good impression. You can do open houses with other people. So more open houses leads to more matches for our sellers. You could team up with some people and do more of them. Listing agent value, it increases your visibility. So one of the things I love about open houses is it brands you as the agent. You're doing all these activities and it's branding you. You're posting on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. You're sharing it with your sphere of influence. You're sending it out in your database. All those things are touches, and it's going to keep you top of mind. It's going to brand you as the agent, and it's a great way of growing your database. If you're consistently doing 2 to 3 open houses a week, I know that's ambitious, but let's say at least 2 or 3 a month. If you don't, if inventory is a little bit of a problem, and 6, 7 guests come in each one, you're going to grow that database much quicker than other ways. And those people that walk in the door do have real estate needs. They're not just wasting their time on a Thursday night or Sunday afternoon. So the before steps, you're prospecting for appointments, you're attracting attendees to come to the open house, you're marketing yourself and the home, and you're growing your database. During, you're asking for consultations, you're asking for appointments throughout, chats. You're delivering a standout experience. You're building your database, highlighting the home features, showcasing your expertise. You're definitely asking if they own a home. And then afterwards, the goal is to secure the consultation appointments, convert them into listings and sales, and follow up with all past and current contacts to maintain momentum. One of the things I would be doing as I grow my database, every Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday, I would be reaching out to my buyer database, letting them know, hey, I'm setting up my appointments for the weekend. Were there any homes you wanted to see? And that's just the email that's going to go out consistently every single week, say on a Wednesday. And even if they don't answer you, these are touches, right? They see you as the agent that's going to help them. And the more you do that, you sprinkle in some buyer tips, there could be a chance where they want to see a specific house that weekend, and then boom, they call or respond to that email. The dooring tactics, again, let's just kind of recap. Display. One of the things I like is maybe having an actual flyer with time slots for appointments, where you could do buyer consultations and you can do listing appointments. You want to use multiple methods to capture contact information. Maybe a open house sign-in app along with the paper version, so that way they can decide which one they want to use. And you don't want to wing your questions. Again, you want to have them in your head where you can pull them out as you need, and that's going to be just practice. You're going to have a list. Hopefully, you could Google it in the playbook. It has those questions, and you're going to have those available in your brain when you need them, but you got to practice them and you got to role play. The follow-up was where the magic happens. So in a perfect situation, you're closing for that appointment and you're getting an appointment, but not every open house guest is going to say, hey, Jared, I want to meet with you. Let's get together tomorrow. So follow-up is where the magic happens. Make sure that the open house campaign is turned on. If you do have a CRM, see if there's an open house campaign already in there. If not, make one. You want to do same-day follow-ups. Yes, call them. I think it leaves a big impression. I know that if it's a Sunday and you're doing a 2-hour open house, 3-hour open house, there's probably between prep and signs and taking it all down, it's probably a 4 or 5 hour gig. But do same-day follow-ups. It's going to make a big difference. Re-engage, collect feedback, and try to set an appointment. So each time you're making these connections and following up, you're asking for the appointment. Definitely update their information as you learn more stuff about them. Maybe you get a better email address, maybe you get the spouse's information, whatever it might be, constantly update that contact information in your database. And keep track of those reach outs and any conversations you might have. And you want to be consistent. So again, ongoing follow-up. If you have a CRM, such as my Weichert, send that weekly email on Wednesday about, if there's any open houses if there's any houses they wanted to see, and that you're filling up your appointments for the weekend. So an open house can be your most valuable appointment setting machine, but you need to approach it with that mindset. Do things on purpose and try to close for the appointment with every single guest. And Chris Gosser says, opportunities don't happen, you create them. So that's it. I hope that helped. Definitely start getting your open house kit in order. Okay, that's kind of the first step. What is your display board going to look like? Start gathering those things. And then once you have those things in order, just do one. So the best way of learning is on the job. So don't try to get all your ducks in a row and get perfection, because there's no such thing as perfection. Get your stuff in order and just do one. And after you do one, you're going to learn different ways you're going to want to do it. Excuse me. And each time you're going to grow off it, grow off it, grow off it. And you're going to get clients if you do it this way. So hope this helped. Reach out if you have any questions, and get going.